All right, this update is brought to you by Staples Stores. Aztecs back in action tonight at Viejas Arena as they take on Colorado State. 6 p.m. tip-off, 5 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts right here on San Diego Sports 760. Now during Staples Sit-a-thon, you can save up to $180 on select chairs, desk chairs, computer chairs, and even gaming chairs. In store only. Offer ends 3/2. See associates for details. Stop by Staples today and grab a seat.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour one of Jon and Jim. We're outside Viejas Arena on a spectacular day. Aztecs basketball tonight, a big one. San Diego State and Colorado State. We'll get into it at 4 p.m. with Mark Seidler from the UT who covers the Aztecs. We have Earth, Wind, and Fire tickets and Chicago tickets to give away over the next couple of hours. There's tons of Padres news from Peoria. But we should get an update on your mental health after that open from yesterday where we were less than 24 hours removed from the Super Bowl yesterday. Today, we're less than 48 hours removed.
Yeah.
How is your feeling, or how has your mental health changed over the last 24 hours as you continue to process what happened on Sunday?
I'm still pissed.
Oh, you're not happy now?
No. Yeah, I'm still whatever. It sucks. As the day goes by, it will hopefully eventually get better, and we move forward. It is what it is.
It is what it is, and they are who we thought they were. Hashtag Niners 2024 season. All right, Jim is still processing the Super Bowl loss. We're getting you ready for Aztecs basketball tonight. Big one inside Viejas Arena. There are already a couple of fans lined up to go inside. 6 o'clock.
Having a chat.
Is the start time between San Diego State and Colorado State. We'll talk about it with Mark Ziegler coming up. You look at the standings, Jim, in the Mountain West. There are 7 teams within one game of each other in the loss column. You've got teams with either 3 or 4 losses. Only 5 teams will get a bye in the Mountain West tournament. I say it every single game. It's a big one. I'll say it again. It's a big one tonight inside Viejas Arena. Rematch of a game won by Colorado State back on January 30th. Here tonight at 6 p.m. with Ted Leitner on the call.
This is the stretch. This is what we talked about. The 4 games that they had, which was last Friday, right?
Who was that against?
I'm blank. It's Nevada.
Okay.
And then Colorado State, then New Mexico, and then on the road against Utah State.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, all right, if they can go 3-1, that's the goal, 3-1.
Okay.
And then the next part of that discussion was, all right, well, who's the one loss? I think we both agreed that if you had to pick one team, it would have been Nevada. And that's exactly what happened. So now you are in a situation where to get to that 3-1 mark in that 4-game stretch like we talked about, tonight is a massive, massive game. They're all big just because of how clumped up the top of the Mountain West Conference is. And tonight's, it's no different. Your wiggle room has gotten thinner and thinner. And these next couple games are going to be crucial if you want to win a regular season championship.
No doubt about it. They still do control their own destiny, but that would require potentially winning every game remaining on the regular season schedule. It does start tonight against Colorado State. This starts a huge week for the Aztecs at home. Tonight against Colorado State at 6 p.m. Friday night against New Mexico, looking for payback from a game they lost in the pit. All right. We'll get back to it with Mark Ziegler coming up at 4 p.m. There's tons to get to out of Padres spring training today, including a tweet earlier this morning that has been widely distributed from Alden Gonzalez, ESPN, about Jackson Merrill. We've talked about this. It seems like with each passing day, Merrill is getting at least a legitimate look to be on the opening day roster. Jim, this was Alden Gonzalez earlier, that Jackson Merrill seemingly will get a real chance to earn an outfield job this spring. He said he's been working a lot in both center and left and feels pretty comfortable at both. A.J. Preller you'll hear from coming up. Mike Schilt has commented on it. Jackson Merrill spoke with the media today as well. But, I mean, it's not a guarantee, but it seems like the Padres are positioning Jackson Merrill to potentially make the opening day roster depending on how things go this spring.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. It
Right.
feels like this has happened. I mean, at this point in time, I think I would be pretty surprised if, one, Jackson Merrill's not on the opening day roster, and two, he's not in the outfield in some capacity, somewhere. Left, center, right. I mean,
teaming with Tatis, holding hands.
Right. Well, you heard from Mike Schilt today saying that they wanted to make Tatis a rover in the outfield. They wanted to petition Major League Baseball to have it be okay to only have 8 position fielders.
Smart.
Yeah,
I like that.
8 fielders on the field.
That's
and,
a good idea.
And Tatis can cover 2 positions.
Yeah, he could bat twice.
Yeah, it's great.
It's a really good idea.
I love that idea.
Yeah. Of 1,000 plate appearances this year, maybe 1,100, 1,200.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Screw left center.
He's going to hit 116 home runs.
Right, and the
batting twice.
And the team's going to give up 1 million runs because the gaps. There's no one in the gaps.
Right.
Yeah, it feels like at this point in time, Jackson Merrill, in some capacity, is going to be this team's left fielder or center fielder or somewhere on this roster opening day, right?
Well, I mean, I think even more so when I hear A.J. Preller and Brent, I think you have this Merrill and Marcy competing for a job this spring. This was A.J. Preller earlier today addressing the media for the first time this spring and talking about some of his younger prospects.
Yeah, no, I think we're open, in terms of their ability to compete to make the club. I think we're gonna find out more, but I think they put themselves in position. Specifically, Jackson's case, last year getting to Double-A, playing well in the Double-A setting. He had a really good off season. And I think with Jacob Marcy, Graham Pauley, those guys, getting to Double-A and then playing in the fall league. Jacob, being the MVP of the fall league. The league's designed to speed up the development of some really talented players. We think they're really talented, and we know their work ethic and how hard they work. And I think they're coming here not just for the experience. They're coming here to kind of see where they stack in with our current group and our current club.
They have mentioned Jacob Marcy more times than I can even count. I mean, they have talked about Jacob Marcy, Graham Pauley, Jackson Merrill a lot.
Yep. You're right.
A lot.
Since December, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just openly. They're asked about the young players, and then the first names that come out of A.J. Preller's mouth are Jacob Marcy, Graham Pauley, and Jackson Merrill, in whatever order you want to say. So you just sit here and you hope that with how much they're being talked about by this organization and A.J. Preller, that they have good spring. They have a good spring. Because if they don't, that's going to mess up a lot of their plans, I feel like. So it's going to be pretty crucial for the guys that he mentioned there to have a good spring, so it gives this team confidence when they bring them up, which I think is going to be pretty quickly.
Let me ask you this: do their spring numbers even matter? Like, can it be?
Yeah, I think
a bit. If they hit 380 this spring, as opposed to 180 this spring, does that impact whether they're on the major league roster? Because it can be completely misleading, can it? You can hit 380 in spring and hit 100 out of the gates. You can hit 100 in spring and hit 380 out of the gates, right? Like, are you changing your plans for your opening day roster based on 15 Cactus League games?
Well, here's the thing, John. What if in those 15 Cactus League games, Jacob Marcy hits 108?
Right.
Are you going to have much confidence to have him be on the opening day roster? Same thing with Jackson Merrill. Same thing with Graham Pauley. Now, do I think those guys are going to, in however many at-bats or games they have in spring training in the Cactus League, hit 108? I don't. But at the same time, it would be very beneficial for this franchise if they're going to make these moves as quickly as they are to start this season, to have those guys go out there and have good springs, because then it would give them confidence, and it would also give them a reason. Like, if they were asked, I mean, if you're A.J. Preller sitting there and you've already penciled in Jacob Marcy and Jackson Merrill to be on this opening day roster, and they go out in spring and they both underperform and don't look good, how are you going to justify them being on the opening day roster?
So, okay, I agree with that. You're right. But I guess I'd put it this way. Let's say both of them hit 300 this spring, which isn't, hard to envision. It's definitely possible in spring training. That provides you cover to put them on the opening day roster. But what happens if they don't perform when they are up? Are they develop? Is spring training the evaluation tool that 100 games in Double-A is, or 100 games in Triple-A is? Or is it just 15 games against, single A, double A, and triple A pitchers? I think it gives you cover to put them on the big league roster, but I don't think it provides an answer if they don't perform once they're in the big leagues, if that makes sense. And oh, by the way, all this Merrill and Marcy talk, Brent, let's get to this from AJ Preller. The Padres aren't done per Preller. They're still having active trade conversations. Listen to this.
We have flexibility. I mean, I think part of that is, we've tried to put a lot of time and effort into adding, depth and quality to the team and the roster. So, there's going to be some fun competitions to watch here in spring training. But again, like it's been a later developing market, really. I think we've had real, honestly, trade conversations that are still ongoing that, usually at this point in the season, most teams are kind of focused on, they have their roster getting to spring training, going and playing. We've been pretty active, in terms of still obviously some talented free agents that are out there. Obviously, we signed Profar, yesterday, the day before, and there's some active trade conversations. And similar to last year, I think I don't know if we had Michael Wacha at this point in time in the season. So, we're always going to be looking to add and improve. The team that starts right now or starts camp here in the next couple of days, it's not going to be the team, that obviously we finish with, and there'll be a lot of different options as we go through the year. And honestly, I think there'll be some options as we go through spring training.
Is outfield a bigger need right now, or is it more so first base DH? Pat?
Yeah, I think probably outfield. I think we have from an infield standpoint, with Cronenworth, Kim, Xander, and Manny. And some other depth behind that with Jackson and Graham and some other 6-year frees that are here. I think from the outfield standpoint, obviously a good place to start with Fernando Tatis, and adding Profar to the depth standpoint. But we're going to continue to look to, to add to the outfield mix. We like some of the competition we have in the camp currently, but that's an area that we've had some ongoing conversation, both free agent and trade market as well from the outside.
Do you still have some money to spend?
Yeah, no, it's again, every year we get, budget standpoint. I think that's kind of the flexibility as well. There'll be some flexibility from a player standpoint, and then also from a dollar standpoint. So I think we're open. We do have the ability to add if we'd like to. I said it before, we're not just going to add. It's got to be the right player in the right situations. And going into the year with some dollar flexibility as well will be attractive. So we'll weigh that out as we go to the next couple of weeks.
Ongoing conversations with both free agents and potential trade candidates involved in the outfield. That's why I don't think there's all this Marcy Merrill talk. I could see one on the roster. I don't see a world where both are on the roster. Okay, I don't. If he's publicly saying we're having conversations with free agents and about ongoing trade talks, it doesn't scream to me Marcy and Merrill are two of your starting 3 outfielders next year.
Do you think it would come down to a competition in spring, like whoever,
one of the jobs?
If you have Jacob Marcy just look really good in spring, and Jackson Merrill kind of looks okay, has moments, but just is okay. That do you think it's a competition between those two? Maybe
should be,
and maybe Graham Pauley.
First of all, is Pauley where does Pauley play?
Graham Pauley. None of these guys besides Jacob Marcy is an outfielder. I don't think Graham Pauley even played in the outfield at all last year.
No, he didn't.
Same thing with Jackson Merrill. He's had 5 games in the outfield total. Yep. But the thing there that I do agree with Preller on the most, and you heard it, and we've talked about it, the roster at the start of this year in Korea when they take on the Dodgers will not be the same roster in maybe even as early as a month into the season.
But will any teams?
No. It's about the flexibility going into the season, which he mentioned there, to make moves in season when needed.
Right.
And so, I look at him saying about the trade market and they're active in trade talks. Well, okay, that's fine, but it's getting kind of late here as far as making moves, big time moves. And do you see Preller making a big time move?
No, but I see him making a move. Here's the way I look at it today. I think Profar is going to be given the opportunity to start in left. We'll see if he can hold the job or not. I think center field right now is an open competition, and there's some youngsters, there's some veterans probably in there. The youngsters are Marcy and Merrill. And then depending on what they do here, whether it's free agency or via trade, maybe that allows you to fully develop both Marcy and Merrill in the minor leagues. The reason I say that is that I think AJ today kind of quelled my worst fear about putting someone up just because you need to put someone up. Here was Preller earlier today about will they force the issue with young players or not?
Yeah, we're not going to force anything. At the end of the day, we're not going to look up and hurt their development process. For a need basis. We won't do that at all. We'll make sure that if they're not ready, then they go and continue to develop. So I think that'll be a lot of the conversation. Spring training is trying to judge that. Sometimes spring training is not the best time to evaluate, but I think we know those guys well. We kind of know where they're at. And we'll weigh that out, in terms of where they're at, ability to help the team. But I think coming into camp, yeah, we're open-minded. That's probably the best way to phrase it, to the possibility of, seeing where they're at. And, again, seeing if they're the best option for us. And on top of it, it's good for them and they're ready to play.
When you have the number of guys that are kind of there, knocking on the door, AA, that are close as you have right now, what is the balance between building a roster that affords them opportunity, but also kind of needs to make them earn it?
Yeah, no, I think you always want to make sure that guys are earning their, that they're earning their spots in the big leagues. You're never going to hand something to somebody, but we've seen it here in the past. Guys like Chris Paddock, guys like obviously Fernando. When he came in here, they took the jobs. And I think that's what we're looking for is players that come in here and just take the job and make it pretty clear that they're the best option for us. If they don't really do that, it probably means they need more time down in the minor leagues. So that'll be a lot of things that Mike and his staff will be looking at consistently. Our front office and scouting group will be talking about it, but we're going to look to see if I think when guys are ready, they kind of show you that by kind of taking the job and performing consistently, and that'll be part of our evaluation process in spring.
Do you believe him?
It's hard. I mean, I understand the question because at some point you have to have a 26-man roster. Now, with all that being said, it's very easy at the end of spring training. This is what people forget. This happens all the time. The Padres do it as well. You could literally complete spring training, and then all of a sudden all these players are on waivers because they don't make teams. Right. And then all of a sudden you pick someone up. It's literally he hasn't played one game in spring training for your team and then is on an opening day roster. It's a little different with Korea this year, but you get my point. Come March 28th, you could have someone that's not in camp on your big league roster. I do believe, kind of to your point earlier, I was like, well, what if someone hits 140 on it in spring training? Is that a reason not to have him on the big league roster? I think he kind of said that. If a guy doesn't earn it, we're not going to give it to him. That makes sense. If he doesn't earn it, they probably won't give it to him, even if they don't have great options. They'll probably look elsewhere if someone doesn't earn it.
So then they have to have a plan B, plan C.
Yep.
For all scenarios. If Jackson Merrill or Jacob Marcy don't go out there in spring training and don't play well and don't go and take the job like Preller mentioned there, which what Paddock and Tatis both did in spring, then what is your plan B? What is your plan C? Is it just Jerks and Profar? Because if it's just Jerks and Profar, then that's a problem. Is it a trade? Is it waiting for the market to completely tank on a guy like Tommy Pham? What is your plan? Those things don't. We would love to see Jacob Marcy or Jackson Merrill go out there, take that job, and go into the season and have a good rookie year and not completely tank out because they might have been brought up too soon or they're not comfortable with their new position or whatever the case may be. We all want to see these prospects come up and perform because that would just make Preller's job and the Padres' job and life so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also one of those things where you're really kind of just hoping those things happen and not saying that this guy is 100% ready and we have the full confidence that he's going to do that.
Well, you're right.
At least yet.
That's just what are the odds? A 20-year-old, he would be a 20-year-old on opening day. What are the odds a 20-year-old switching positions is fully developed and ready to handle that at the big league level and be an everyday player? They'd be stacked against you. Right. It's not to say that it's impossible. There's examples of young players excelling, obviously, in the big leagues and top prospects performing from day one. But aren't you kind of stacking the deck against the player? He's 20. He's never played left field full time.
It's tough, man.
And you're asking him to be your everyday center fielder?
It is such a tough spot to put him in, but he's going to get the opportunity, which is which is going to be cool to see. Like he's going to get an opportunity, and the Padres will make their decision on how he performs in spring, how he performs when he gets asked to do things that he has never really done before, how he performs in left field. We'll know. Like we'll know. I think by the end of spring, before they make the announcement on the opening day roster, if a guy like Jackson Merrill and Jacob are ready to go.
Yeah, I think probably right. On the other side, the latest on Ha-Seong Kim's future. Will this be his final year as a Padre or not? We have more on that with Seidler from the UT. Will join us coming up at 4 p.m. We're getting you ready for San Diego State and Colorado State. We're outside Viejas Arena. We also have Chicago and Earth, Wind, and Fire tickets to give away for a show coming up on August 31st. The latest on Ha-Seong Kim's future is next on Jon and Jim. Well, kind of appropriate. We're on the Mesa right now because I've been telling you all about my friends over at Novo Brazil Brewing. They are a proud supporter of the Mesa Foundation, San Diego State Aztecs men's and women's basketball. They've got a brand new co-branded product. Their kombucha, the Aztecs Raspberry Kombucha, which was taste tested by Aztec men's basketball players Lamont Butler, Jaden Ledee, Micah Parrish, guys that played in national championships a year ago for San Diego State. They've got some spectacular locations here in San Diego County. I'm talking about Novo Brazil Brewing. You need to get to their fresh new spot in Mission Valley. It opened up about a month ago. I've been there already a couple of times. It really is spectacular. A 350-seat restaurant. They've got a full bar menu, 60 taps of Novo Brazil beer. They have the kombucha I've been telling you about, not just the Aztecs Raspberry, but all kinds of flavors. They have seltzers, and it's great for the family. Great food offerings, sandwiches, salads, tacos, burgers, empanadas, appetizers, Brazilian-inspired entrees, and more. Not just the location in Mission Valley, IB, Otay Ranch with those massive LED screens. You got to get there this week or weekend for all of your sports viewing needs. For more information, check out novobrew.com. That's novobrew.com.
All right, this update is brought to you by Staples Stores. We'll start with baseball news today. The San Francisco Giants signed outfielder Jorge Soler to a 3-year deal. And Aztecs, they're back in action tonight as they take on Colorado State at Viejas Arena. 6 p.m. tip-off, 5 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts right here on San Diego Sports 760. Now, during Staples Sit-a-thon, you can save up to $180 on select chairs, desks, chairs, computer chairs, and even gaming chairs. In store only. Offer ends 3/2. See associates for details. Stop by Staples today and grab a seat.
All right, Mark Siegel's going to join us at 4 p.m. Jon and Jim outside Viejas Arena. It is a gorgeous day for basketball. 6 p.m. San Diego State, Colorado State. Got to be 65 and sunny right now on the Mesa. You might be asking yourself this. We have more on Ha-Seong Kim's future, by the way, as a Padre or not. You may be asking yourself this. Hi, Caroline. What's the difference between Jorge Soler and Jurickson Profar? Right? What's the difference between Jorge Soler, 31-year-old veteran, and Jurickson Profar, 30-year-old veteran? Here's what I would tell you. Like Jim just said, everything.
Yeah.
Soler a year ago had an 853 OPS, hit 36 home runs. Profar a year ago had a 689 OPS, which, by the way, is his career average. He's a 700 OPS player. He had 9 home runs last year. He had a negative WAR. So you might say, oh, Soler, maybe they reached. I mean, 3 years is a lot of years. $14 million per year is a good amount of money. But again, are you looking for replacement level? Are you trying to fill something, or are you trying to get something out of it?
Hey, John, AJ Preller's not going to make a move just to make a move now.
Well, again, I don't think he's got the financial flexibility to give someone 14 a year for the next 3 years. So I understand it from that perspective. And I'm not saying Soler is like a slam dunk home run. I'm not saying it's a guarantee the guys can have a 900 OPS with the San Francisco Giants. But this is, again, these are the type of moves. What moves the needle? Like, I think a Soler move can buy you a win or 2 or 3. I think a Profar move is just filling a position.
I agree with you. But like you said, the financial flexibility with this team is close to nil. There was no shot they could have given a guy $14 million a year.
I agree.
To be an outfielder. And frankly, I don't really know much about Jorge Soler, but is he not good defensively? Is he more of a DH than an outfielder?
That's fine. And we always talk about that, but is that our big priority? They've always been like San Diego a year ago was a really good defensive team, but they weren't a good team. They can't live with a Juan Soto type player in the field if they hit.
Yeah. Thank you. Because this narrative that was out there this past year, that I don't want Juan Soto on the team because he's not good defensively. Give me an effing break.
Right. He was fine. He was some good moments. There was some bad moments.
You don't need him to be Ken Griffey Jr. out there, or even Fernando Tatis Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Just make the routine play. He had a pretty good arm.
Yeah.
Just hit the cutoff man, and don't make any mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And keep the ball in front of you. It's not that hard.
And I think he was better in left than he was in right the year before.
I agree. I think right field, you saw it in the playoffs. You saw it early on with the Padres in right field. He struggled. Especially at Petco Park. He definitely struggled. Left field, maybe one last year. There's maybe one.
No,
but
that's nothing.
But there was never this egregious defensive lapse from Juan Soto last year. So I don't want to hear from anybody talking bad about Juan Soto's defense from last season. Because one, you just don't like the guy and you have a vendetta against him. And two, you just don't know ball. So stop talking about it.
And C or 3, are you so enamored with Trent Grisham because of his glove that it makes up for his lack of offense? Or would you prefer the opposite? Would you prefer a 40 home run center fielder that can't field a leg? Yeah, exactly. Everyone wants, especially, here's the difference, folks. Like at Petco Park, which is such a good pitcher's yard, if you can run into a hitter that can actually hit at Petco, I don't care what he does in the field. It's hard to hit.
Yeah.
So if you have someone that gives you productivity at the plate, Manny Machado, well, he's great, both ways. But
everything, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you find someone that you can pencil in that can actually hit at Petco Park, then who cares about their glove? And how many games are you losing because, we're so poor defensively, they lost the game? That's not happening every single day. Kevin Acee today in the UT. He's made some news here recently. Kevin will join us on Friday. If you missed him with Darren earlier today, you can find it at sportsst.com. He writes this today in the UT. The team plans to try to re-sign Ha-Seong Kim and make him their permanent shortstop. So that involves Xander Bogaerts' future. It also, of course, involves Ha-Seong Kim's future as well.
That would be huge. We've talked a lot about that this off season. Re-signing Ha-Seong Kim would be a very good signing. Problem is, then okay, you're going to have to move Xander to another position. You kind of read the tea leaves here. Read that article by AC. It feels like eventually, and maybe as soon as this year, Xander Bogaerts not going to be this team's everyday shortstop, right, for much longer.
Right.
I just don't envision it. Maybe he moves to second base or first base, but it feels like Xander Bogaerts will be moved off of shortstop fairly quickly to make room for a much better defensive shortstop in Ha-Seong Kim or even Jackson Merrill, because you have him be at that position when you literally have like a shortstop coming up through your system that is younger, cheaper, controllable, and a guy there that's just taking up the spot.
Has Ha-Seong Kim proven that he's worth whatever he's going to get on the open market?
Ask me after this season.
Exactly. But if you wait until after this season, aren't you asking A, to potentially lose him, or B, to pay him more? I guess you don't want to get quote unquote lucky and he has a bad year and that's how you extend him. Nobody wants to extend a player off a bad year. So it actually does make sense that if they're trying to do it, they would do it now. You get into the year and he hits, he's not going to want to do it. He gets into the year and doesn't perform, well, you wouldn't be inclined to do it at the end of the year either if he doesn't perform.
Right. It a lot depends on this season. Ha-Seong Kim had a really good season last year. You dive deeper into his season from last year, it was really 3 good months and 3 fantastic months. I think July was incredible for him when he moved to leadoff
OPS or 1,100 OPS.
Moved to the leadoff spot, and he just took off like a rocket. And then he finished the year obviously hurt and not well, and then the start of the season was not good either. But yeah, talk to me at the trade deadline. Like, if this team is in contention, then you're not moving Ha-Seong Kim. And 2, if Ha-Seong Kim's playing really well at the trade deadline, then it's gonna make it a little more difficult for the Padres to re-sign him. But then we can start talking about the exact numbers that we think he could be getting on the market based on how he performs this season.
5 for 100 today. Take it or leave it.
Yes.
5 for 100.
Yes.
20 a year.
Yes.
Through his prime. Defensive wizard.
5 for 100. Yeah. You could be looking at, if he puts together another Gold Glove season.
Yeah. What do you think? 6 for 150?
A season where he's an all-star, because he easily could be an all-star. Then yeah, 6 for 1. I mean, 5 for 100 feels like do it right now type of move. But again, it's hard to do those things when you're so capped on money and worried about finances for the future.
Right, because you just said, like, hey, they can't go out and make a move to Jorge Soler and tie up $14 million for the next 4 years, but can they give $100 million to Ha-Seong Kim beginning next year? Maybe, because you're already paying him what you're paying him now. You're trying to stay under the CBT now.
8 or 7,
yeah, and then maybe you're willing to go back over it a year from now. But again, this is such a blank canvas. We have not heard from anyone representing ownership in a half year, Jim. It's more than that. The last public comments from an owner was Peter Seidler, maybe June 30th or July 1st of 2023. So maybe we'll get more clarification when we hear from Eric Katsenda. Is there any update on that?
When he's going to speak?
Yeah, because I mean, we've heard from Preller, we've heard from Chill.
I haven't seen it.
It has to be this week,
The
right?
only update that I've seen was Dennis Lin a little while, like not like recently, but maybe a month ago, saying that Eric Katsenda is scheduled to speak at spring training at some point.
Here we are.
I mean, has everybody reported yet?
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, which is day what?
Or is it the 16th or something?
I think it's the 16th is the last day, but most of them are already in camp. Manny's there, Tatis is there.
Yep.
I think Jake Cronenworth, Ha-Seong
Yeah,
there.
no, you're right.
But guys like Xander and Profar, when they officially sign him, and other pieces, I think, are still trickling.
I need to hear from Eric Katsenda this week. I think we will. I really need to hear from Eric Katsenda about what the plans are financially for the team in 2024 and beyond. We've heard from, I don't know if we'd heard from Manny Machado publicly on Peter Seidler's passing or not. Had we in any capacity?
We haven't. That's why I wanted to play
Okay.
Manny Machado coming up next year because this is, I think this is the first time truly someone's asked about his thoughts on Peter Seidler. And Manny and Peter, like, we just go back a year earlier. The entire conversation in spring at this time was Manny Machado and his contract extension, and Peter Seidler put his foot down and said, "We are making Manny our top priority."
All right, you're going to hear from Manny Machado on the impact of Peter Seidler to his career. On the other side, Mark Ziegler is going to join us coming up at 4 p.m. We're outside Viejas Arena, San Diego State, Colorado State tonight at 6. Pre-game coverage beginning at 5. Ted Leitner on the call at 6 p.m. Stay with us on Jon and Jim. All right, Mark Ziegler from the UT gets us ready for San Diego State and Colorado State tonight at 4 p.m. But on the other side, you'll hear from Manny Machado on Peter Seidler's legacy next. Jon Jim back with you outside the Arena. San Diego State, Colorado State at 6 p.m. tonight on the call pregame coverage. You're ready for tonight. So Manny Machado has reported, so have most of the Padres at this point, and Jim was just talking about this. He hasn't really publicly commented on Peter Seidler until today at spring training. This was Manny Machado earlier when asked about what Peter Seidler meant to his career.
It's Peter's a person who's an angel right now for us, looking over us right now, and it's obviously a devastating loss that we had. Not just for this organization, but for the city and for his family and for everyone that he's impacted in his life. Peter was a tremendous person who's cared about a lot of people, loved a lot of people, and there's definitely a big impact in this organization where it started to now where we're at now. So he's going to be a person that we deeply missed, and but he's looking over us now, and he wanted us to be great, and we're going to continue to preach his dreams, which is to bring a championship to the city of San Diego, and continue making this city great.
You guys hadn't seen him down the stretch of the season. A lot of guys hadn't talked to him. Were you surprised when you got the news?
I mean, yeah, obviously. It's you never want to hear news like that. I think at the end of the day, it's devastating news, not just for ourselves, for the city, but for the family as well. I think we lost a great man, and it's just sad that God takes great people, and it just it was a devastating loss.
Yeah, it's you hear from Manny there, and it's brutal. It still hurts, and it still is going to affect this franchise going forward because of the new people that are in charge now with Eric Casenda. So, yeah, I never took anything away from Manny not speaking publicly right away or posting anything right away after the death of Peter Seidler, because we knew we were going to hear from Manny. Like, we knew
of course.
that in spring or whenever he was going to be asked this question, and he was going to talk about Peter Seidler, because you knew the relationship that him and Peter had. And without Peter Seidler, maybe Manny's not even here today. Like, honestly, like that relationship right there that Manny built with the owner of the team pretty much was the deciding factor in why Manny Machado signed a new contract extension with the Padres last spring. So, and some people are saying, well, maybe if Peter shouldn't have done that, or, the team would be better off, or whatever the case may be. We knew at the time that he was going to do everything possible to re-sign Manny, that being Peter Seidler. And coming off of the year that he had in 2022, we all said you can't just not re-sign Manny, even though Manny had a bad year last year.
No.
And going forward, he's getting older.
But again, heading into last year, there was no scenario.
None.
Because you were coming off the MVP caliber year. You couldn't have put it off. I mean, you're going to wait on it?
Yeah. No,
what if he has another MVP caliber year?
Right.
Then you'll never see him again in a Padres uniform. Now, to your point, he didn't have a great year. We'll see if he's able to rebound in 2024. I really respect what he said there, because it's not easy to encapsulate when you're just standing somewhere in front of like an awning talking about what the impact of a man was on you. And I think he said it well. He said it's devastating. He feels for his family. He thinks about the city of San Diego. He talks about trying to win a championship. He said it's hard on him. I mean, he said what he should say. Think about it. Grieving a loss is hard. Nobody ever asked you to speak out publicly. No one's ever been like, hey, can you talk about the death of your family member? Hey, can you talk about the death of your colleague? I mean, nobody's asked to do that publicly, but athletes are. He's the captain of the ship, Manny Machado, and I thought they
have 26 captains.
Well, I think he answered it to the best of his ability, and I appreciate what he said there today. I guess last year, I mean, you're right. Last year, the story was Manny Machado's contract, and this year it has a completely different feel. But again, without them doing what they did a year ago, Manny Machado, you're probably right. Probably isn't a San Diego Padre right now, for whatever that's worth.
Probably not. Maybe some of the organization were okay with that. Maybe some of the organization wanted it to happen.
Sure.
Because they knew that it would mean they would get to have to keep Juan Soto. They would have an opportunity to re-sign Juan Soto. And they would have more flexibility to sign players this offseason. Maybe they could have re-signed Snell. Maybe it could have meant they could have actually, added to the rotation. A lot of things could have happened.
Right.
If they re-signed Manny Machado subsequently. A lot of things could have happened if they never signed Xander Bogaerts, right? But it is what it is. They're on the team. And you hope this year is drastically different, and that going into this year, Joe talked about it the other day, that defining roles, everybody being on the same page, and locking in from the start of the season. Because it felt like last year there was a lot of just moving parts. There was a lot of clicks. There was a lot of not understanding of one another. The pressure obviously got to them. And, talking to Tim Leeper yesterday, he made a good point. It's like, I wasn't here, so I can't speak on what that was like. But the mindset of this team so far is wipe the slate clean, go into this year with a new mentality, and kind of start over, but kind of not start over, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, here's the truth. Manny can be better with his teammates. He can be more of a leader. What we're going to consider is what he does on the field. When he was an MVP candidate in 2022, he had a 7.5 WAR. A year ago, he had a 3.5 WAR. The projections at Fangraphs, we have Dan Zaborski on the show, and he does the ZiPS projections for the future. They're not overly optimistic on Manny Machado because he's in his 30s. He's projected to have a worse year in 2024, Jim, than he did in 2023, from 3.5 WAR to 3.4. So same year. Then a year from now, 2025, 3.2, and then 2 years from now, 2.5. I mean, the trend is not encouraging. He has to buck it. He has to have a bounce back. I know. He has to buck the trend. in 2024. And it's easier said than done. He had this amazing 2022. He's coming off injury now in 2024. Can he rebound off injury to get close to 2022? We're going to find out.
This feels good.
What does?
That there's actual like Padres like, you know what I mean? Like there's things to talk about. There's we actually hear from the players. We actually hear from the general manager. We actually hear from the manager of the team. I was feeling like crap the last 2 days, but you know what?
You still do, right?
I still do. I still feel like crap, but it's nice to go into boom right into Padres season, right in spring training, content galore. Give it to me.
Speaking of content galore, we have a big one tonight at Viejas Arena. We are outside San Diego State, Colorado State. Mark Ziegler covers the beat for the UT. He'll join us next on this huge game in the Mountain West. Mark Ziegler to kick off hour 2 next on Jon and Jim. All right, the NFL season is over. Did you realize that, Jim? But the NBA season is still here, and there's no easier way to get in on the action than with Fantasy with their Pick'em game. With their Pick'ems, you pick between 2 to 5 players, select higher or lower on player stats, and if your picks hit, you can win, listen to this, up to 100 times your money in one single night.
Yeah, it's legal in California. I love playing with my favorite NBA players, especially Steph Curry, picking higher on how many three-pointers he's going to make in one night. If you love fantasy sports, you guys are going to love Underdog Fantasy. It's the best and easiest way to win.
I like picking lower on made three-pointers for Steph Curry.
Of course you do.
You can go to their easy-to-use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with this promo code. Write this down. Jon and Jim, pretty easy. JONANDJIM. That's Jon and Jim. Underdog's going to match your first deposit up to $100. You'll love their mobile app. Plus, they'll give you a special pick of higher than a half total point to use on your first Pick'em entry.
That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Jon and Jim to get your first deposit of $10 or more matched, plus your special pick. Must be 18 years or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms do apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. All right, this update is brought to you by Staples Stores. We'll start in baseball. The San Francisco Giants today signed Jorge Soler to a 3-year deal. And the Aztecs, they're back in action tonight as they take on Colorado State at Viejas Arena, which we're outside right now. 6 p.m. tip-off, 5 p.m. pregame right here on San Diego Sports 760. Now during Staples Sit-a-thon, you can save it to $180, on select chairs, desk chairs, computer chairs, and even gaming chairs in store only. Offer ends 3/2. See associates for details. Stop by Staples today and grab a seat.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 2, Jon and Jim. We'll have your countdown to tip-off at 5 p.m. Big one in the Mountain West tonight. San Diego State, Colorado State. We're outside Viejas. It is literally as perfect of weather as you can have. Yet Jim told me at the break, it's always cold out here, was the exact quote, right?
Yeah, John.
It's February 13th. It is the nicest weather in America.
Like the wind tunnel that this place is right here.
There's literally 2-mile-an-hour wind.
I'm just saying it's a little cold. I'm soft.
It is. You are soft.
I'm soft.
Thank
It's
you.
a little cold. I'm wearing.
Let me look this up. Mission Valley weather.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, we have Mark.
It's a little cold, John.
It's
I'm wearing a sweatshirt.
63 degrees.
I'm wearing a sweatshirt. It's a little cold.
On February 13th.
I'm wearing
with the
a
wind,
sweatshirt.
it feels like it's 62.
It feels like it's 62. Mark Seidler
like
from
61.
UT is with us right now here on Jon and Jim. We're getting you ready for San Diego State and Colorado State. Mark, we always appreciate your time. I know you've written about it over the last 24 hours. I mean, the Mount West is like the wild, wild West. 7 teams separated by 1 game right now in the loss column. How do you handicap what's to come here between these 7 teams?
Well, you can look at, the problem is the Mountain West plays an unbalanced schedule, so not everybody plays the same teams. And so, for example, Utah State does not play Nevada, and they skip Nevada and UNLV. They don't play UNLV at home, and they don't play at Nevada. San Diego State doesn't play at Wyoming, which turns out to be, a semi-tough game, and they don't play Air Force at home. And so the thing is, you have to kind of look at it and say, well, it's not really that even. And I think what's going to happen at the end of the season is you're going to have a log jam at the end of the season, and the NCAA tournament selection committee is going to look at this and throw their hands up and go, what do they do in the non-conference? Tell me what their metrics are, and that's how we're going to sort this out.
Mark, me and John talked about the stretch of games here upcoming for the Aztecs with Nevada, Colorado State tonight, and New Mexico, and then Utah State on the road. Do you feel like with already dropping the first game of the 4-game stretch to Nevada, that if they have hopes of winning the Mountain West Conference regular season title, that these next 3 games are pretty much must win?
At least 2 of them are. They got to win at home. You just can't lose at home. And then we'll see. The last 4 games are all winnable, at least historically. I mean, you've got at Fresno State. They should be able to win that if they are who they say they are. They should be able to win that. You've got San Diego State at home. You should be able to win that. You're at UNLV. That's going to be a tough game. They're playing pretty well, but you won 21 of the last 23 against UNLV, and that's a building you absolutely own. It's like you're home away from home. So you think you should be able to win that, and then Boise State on senior night should be able to win that. So you look at now, you come back to these 3 games, and if you win 2 of the 3, that gets you to 5 losses in the conference. There's a pretty good chance you're going to have a share of the title at 5 losses. Maybe somebody stays at 4, but man, that requires running the table for 6 teams, and for Utah State, or for one team, it requires just losing 1. So I don't know. I mean, I think they're in pretty good shape if they just lose 1.
Mark Seidler with us right now, of course, covers the Aztecs, does a great job of it for the Union Tribune. So we just saw San Diego State against Colorado State a couple of weeks ago, CSU jumping on the Aztecs, SDSU getting back into the game. How much of a factor is what happened 2 weeks ago, like here tonight, like in terms of how Colorado State defends Jaden Ledee or the start that San Diego State gets off to? Like, is the first game much of a factor here tonight or not?
A little bit, and sort of there's a couple tactical things. I mean, the biggest one is how San Diego State defends Joel Scott. I mean, they decide not to double team. And Colorado State just backed him down in the block and some pretty major plays and at key points of the game and got baskets or fouls against San Diego State's four men. And so in this game, do you double team? Do you play that a little bit differently? And remember, in that game, the San Diego State's rotation was different. That was the last game that Elijah Saunders started. Since then, he hasn't started. He's been coming off the bench. It's either been Micah Parrish or it's been J. Powell starting in that spot. Also, Darian Trammell is starting. And so it's kind of a different team that they're facing. And, if you look at that game at Fort Collins, number one, it's in altitude. Number two, if you take away the first 8 minutes and the last 5 minutes, the San Diego State outscored them by almost 20. And so I think their thinking is, look, we get off to a good start and we don't fade down the stretch because we're not in altitude and we get the juice from our home crowd. We're in pretty good shape here. And so I tend to think that's kind of what's going to happen. I think they're in pretty good shape in this game, but you never know. You come out and have a clunker. One thing about this San Diego State team we can say, despite a lot of inconsistent individual performances, team performances have been really, really consistent, particularly at home. They've been really good at home. They haven't had a clunker yet against somebody and lost to somebody they shouldn't lose to. And so I think, this will just follow that pattern.
What do you expect the starting lineup to look like tonight and going forward? I know it was a little weird with Jay Powell missing his flight a couple games ago, but do you expect the starting lineup to be changing at all the rest of the season?
Yeah, I could see it changing some. And, it's interesting because I know they talked about, and I haven't had a chance to ask them about what their thinking was against Nevada and not starting Jay Powell. Nevada, presents some unique challenges because they're such a big team. The smallest guy that starts is 6'4". And if you're going to start Darian Trammell at 5'10" and Lamont Butler is 6 feet, 6'1", now you're really, really height disadvantage. And then you're going to start, Micah Parrish as your four-man at 6'6". When they're going, 6'4", 6'6", 6'7", 6'9", 6'10". And so I thought they would start Jay Powell. And if you notice in that game, very quickly, Jay Powell was at the scores table, within 2 minutes in the first half and within 1 minute, I think, in the second half, as soon as they start giving up offensive rebounds. But now you're playing a smaller team in Colorado State where no one's over 6'8". It's a lot of guys, are 6'2" to 6'4", guys in that range. I tend to think they're going to stick with what they did the other night and start Micah Parrish and bring Jay Powell off the bench.
Mark Ziegler's with us right now from the San Diego Union Tribune. Mark, you look at where the Aztecs are in the conference or overall, and it's been up and down whether they've been potentially at home or on the road. But you look at the metrics, and they're as good, if not better, than the metrics were a year ago at this time. How do you look at this San Diego State team, this 2024 team right now in the middle of February compared to the 2023 version last year?
Yeah, I mean, the metrics record, a lot of it is really, really close.
Yep.
But I don't think they're the same teams. I just don't think this team can, you see it on the road. I mean, that team had special qualities when it got into tough situations, and they were able to win those tight games. They blew a few, but they were pretty tough in those road environments, and that's, I think, because their defensive prowess and they were just a tick better defensively, even if the metrics don't say it. But otherwise, if you take away styles of play and individual characteristics and just look at the record and metrics, yeah, they're almost identical, and that's going to serve them well when they get in front of the selection committee. I just think they're going to look at their non-conference schedule and say, look, they challenged themselves more than anybody else. They won some games. They won at Gonzaga. That's a nice feather in their cap, and just the fact that they went out and played people is going to help them a lot more than some other teams. It's going to be so fascinating to see because you're going to have 6 Mountain West teams in contention for a berth in the tournament, and a couple of them, like Nevada and Boise, have metrics down in the 40s, between 40 and 50, and that's usually right on the bubble or off the bubble. But then you have teams like New Mexico, which has the hardest remaining schedule. It could end up losing 8 games unless they start beating people on the road. But they have really good metrics. But if you peel it away and look at their resume, it's not that impressive. So I don't know how they're going to sort all that out. It's just going to be fascinating to see. But I think of all the teams in the conference, San Diego State sits in the best position right now because of how hard a schedule they played and how well their metrics have held up.
Mark, before you go, I know you wrote about this, the impact of the Pac-12 dissolving on some other athletic programs at San Diego State, specifically men's soccer, and soccer is heading for the WAC. How did that come about, and were there other options for San Diego State with men's soccer, or how did that all play out?
Well, I think that, what you were looking at is, so 4 teams, 4 members of the Mountain West play soccer. You need to have 6 to get an automatic berth in the NCAA tournament. And you really don't want them to be in a league that doesn't have an automatic berth in a sport like men's soccer, because it's only a 48-team tournament. So there's not that many at-large berths. And so you don't want to be relying on that. So they were really looking at saying, let's take these 4, let's take Oregon State and Washington State are left from the Pac-12. Oregon State plays men's soccer. That gives us 5. And let's go grab a team like Denver or someone else, maybe another orphan team that's playing in some other conference, and pull them into our conference. And now we have 6. And that's not bad odds. You have a 16 conference. You just got to be the best out of 6 to make the NCAA tournament. But that kind of fell apart when Oregon State sent all of its other sports to the WCC, including men's soccer. And that's a very good men's soccer league. USD's in it, Portland's in it, Loyola Marymount's in it. There's some really good teams in there. And so Oregon State, who has been good too, said, well, this would be perfect for us, and travel will be better. So they went in there, and now you still have these 4 schools sitting around. They're all in the WAC, so San Diego State joined the WAC as well. And so I think that's how it happened. I think in the long run, it's better for San Diego State. The Pac-12 was a great idea. They thought they could really get a bump in recruiting, and in many respects they did. They just couldn't win. They just could not win in it. And they get 1 win, 0 wins every single year, finish last, second to last every single year. And they did it for 19 years. And I think it got to the point where I think they're almost privately wishing they could get out, and now they've got their wish granted. They're in a league that's very competitive. It's very good. They got 2 teams in last year. But I think they'll be able to compete a little bit better in this conference.
Mark, always appreciate the insight. We're looking forward to seeing you tonight. We'll do it again soon, and thanks for taking some time for us.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, no problem. Talk to you.
All right, great stuff. Mark Seidler from the Union Tribune. San Diego State, Colorado State, pregame coverage at 5. Ted Leitner on the call at 6 p.m.
Do you think going back to the question about the starting lineup?
Yeah.
Do you think Jay Powell should be in the starting lineup?
Man, I think here's what I honestly, truly believe about the starting lineup. I think it's so overrated. Honestly, I think what's more impactful is who's on the floor at the end of the game in close games. And he's been on the floor a lot at the end of games, in close games. And I just feel like those are the more meaningful minutes. You could make a change in a lineup 2 minutes into a game. So yeah. I think that, like last year, was Jaden Ledee capable of starting last year? Well, yeah, he's an All-American this year. But I mean, again, I just don't see it as important as who's starting in a baseball game. These typically baseball games, you're going to get 3-4 at bats. Where in basketball, you could play more minutes coming off the bench than you could as a starter.
Or who starts with the ball in an overtime of a Super Bowl?
Yeah, that's overrated. Who cares? You start with the ball, or you get the ball
tie.
Second. Yeah. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. All right, there's more from Manny Machado. So Machado earlier, if you missed it, commented on the legacy and passing of Peter Seidler. He also today at spring training was asked about this, on what the team needs to do this upcoming season and what they learned from last year's disappointment.
You learn every single year. Every single year is different. It's a different year every single year. It's different expectation, different people, different faces, different approaches. It's different. Obviously, you take the good and you take the bad, and you try to just be better next year. And this year we're gonna go out there and just try to compete. At the end of the day, is we got to play better as a team. We got to do the little things that count, and at the end of the day, we just got to play better. I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. And I think the guys in here, I think, are a little bit more hungry. I think it was devastating where we could have been a lot better last year, and we fell short, 2 games back, from the season that wasn't so great. And, we know we have it. So, it's there. We just got to, take it out from within, and the group that we have here. I think, a lot of guys are hungry. They've been hungry all off season. We've been communicating, and, it's definitely going to be different. And, it's a matter of going out there and just performing now.
Was it a burden with all those expectations and hype
you guys had?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's a burden. I mean, I think it's just, sometimes you let yourself down. You obviously we want to perform at the highest level. We want to make it to the World Series and, get there. And, sometimes it just doesn't happen, and you just gotta, just roll with the punches and move on from it. But, at the end of the day, it's no burden. I mean, it happens. It happens in baseball. You have, the top two teams in baseball who have the league, the record, the best records in baseball, and they lost in the first round. So, it happens. It's baseball. At the end of the day, you got to play 162 games. You got to be the best team out there at the end of the day, and it just takes a lot of you. But you just got to just play better. Focus on the little things, on playing baseball the right way and doing the little fundamentals that count. That make you execute in the big moments.
All right, so just play better. Play better.
It's baseball.
It's
baseball.
baseball.
You win some, you lose some.
What?
That is so Manny. Those
it's
2
a-
minutes were
yeah.
so Manny Machado.
It is the Manny Machado to a T. He's not going to really give you much, and it's going to be got to play better. It's baseball. Things happen. Just move forward. I think it would. If this team expects to compete this year, and if this team expects to vie for a postseason spot, Manny Machado is going to need to come out and start fast. Like he needs to start fast. I feel like he needs to have a really good season,
right?
Because Manny had a bad year last year. I don't think Manny's going to admit that. I don't think Manny's going to say that I played like crap last year and I need to be a lot better than here or there. Maybe he did at some point, but we all know that when Manny plays well, usually this team wins. It's pretty much when Manny goes, the team goes. You saw it in 2022, and you saw what happens in 2020, even though it was a short season. And then you saw what happened in 2019, 2021, and 2023. When Manny has bad seasons, the team usually has bad year.
Right. Well, here's the one issue with 2024 is like his injury. Right. Now he's already throwing. He's in camp. He's hitting. But again, there's a long way between throwing. Does that impact him in any manner?
I don't know.
And for how long does it impact him? That's something that at least has to be considered to start the year, doesn't it? You would think.
I would think it does. And we'll see. If Manny comes out and isn't playing in the field to start on opening day, then okay. But if he is, then that's great. But it's also Manny, and he's the type of guy that wants to push through injuries.
Oh, he'll be out there.
And at some point, this team's going to have to step in and be like, Manny, bro, you can't do it. And the reason why he got put in the IL last year is because he literally broke a bone in his wrist.
Well, that's the thing. He'll be out there. The question is, will he perform when he's out there? And if he's not performing when he's out there, how long until he's at 100%? Or can you stomach him not getting off to a good start because of injury, but he's in there every single day?
If he gets out to a bad start, can this team overcome that? Like if Manny gets out to a start similar to last year, does the team have enough pieces around it to overcome that bad start for Manny? Is Tatis going to step up? Is Xander going to step up? Is Ha-Seong Kim? Is the rotation? Like you're going to need guys to step up in a huge way if Manny doesn't have a good season. But I do think he's going to have a good year just because of his pattern in his career. It's like he does really good in the even years, and the odd years for some reason it's just not good at all. It goes bad year, good year, and we're on a good year potentially for Manny, and it starts and ends with him. I know he's Mr. Cliche when it comes to leadership, and he doesn't care about what is it? Chemistry. What is it? High school baseball, culture. Sorry, like. I do think that Manny's going to need to really step up. He needs to step up in a big way this season if this team expects and hopes to get to the postseason.
Last April, 671 OPS was well below league average. Last May, before the injury, 615 OPS. He returned in June, had a 713 OPS.
Yeah, not good enough.
Finally broke out in July, had 1100 OPS, then 674, then 891. I mean, he's well off, obviously. 2022, you can't even compare. I mean, is 2023 compared to 2022? Two different players. I mean, MVP caliber to, above average player a year ago, but not the type of player he expects probably of himself, making $30+ million per year. All right, here's what we're going to do. On the other side, we still have Earth, Wind, and Fire tickets to give away. We'll do that coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll do that actually between now and 5 p.m. when our countdown to tip-off begins. We have tickets to see Chicago with Earth, Wind, and Fire. This is at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater on August 31st. So we have tickets for that to give away. Plus, on the other side, we will get to the wrap. The biggest sports stories of the day, San Diego State and Colorado State from Viejas Arena at 6 p.m. Ted Leitner on the call. Pregame coverage officially beginning at 5 p.m. We'll give those tickets away this hour. We're outside Viejas Arena. Stay with us on Jon and Jim. All right, we're on the Mesa right now. Maybe you're heading over this afternoon for San Diego State basketball. Before you head over, make sure to get over to Windmill Farms. They're the college area's natural grocer. Pick up something before dinner or for dinner. I pick up lunch over at Windmill Farms all the time. They've got the fantastic deli. It really is phenomenal. Your 8th sandwich is free. They've got the full selection of sandwiches. They use the freshest, highest quality ingredients, and they really pride themselves on low prices. In addition to the deli during your work week for lunch or picking up something for dinner, they've got organic farm fresh produce and meats. Whatever your grocery needs are, they have it. Whether it's the produce, the amazing craft beer selection, whatever you need, and they're centrally located off Del Cerro Boulevard, right across the freeway from Montezuma Mesa, about a mile maybe or less from San Diego State. Family owned. Trevor and his family, they've been serving San Diegans for 20 plus years. Even if you don't live or work near Del Cerro, no problem. You can find Windmill Farms on Instacart, have your groceries delivered directly to your doorstep. They've got weekly specials at windmillfarmsmarket.com. That's windmillfarmsmarket.com. And again, a reminder, shop local, shop at Windmill Farms.
All right, this update's brought to you by Staples Stores. Start with baseball news of the day. The Giants signed free agent outfielder Jorge Soler to a 3-year deal. And the Aztecs are back in action tonight at Viejas Arena as they take on Colorado State. 6 p.m. tip-off, 5 o'clock is when our pregame coverage starts outside of Viejas right here on San Diego Sports 760. Now during Staples Sit-a-thon, you can save up to $180 on select chairs, desk chairs, computer chairs, even gaming chairs in store only. Offer ends 3/2. See associates for details. Stop by Staples today and grab a seat.
Casey, within the last couple of minutes, posting an article about Manny Machado, his health, where he is. Machado saying, honestly, no expectations. He is hitting. He is throwing. The only game that he plans to miss in the season's first month is for the birth of his first child, which is due in April. So
Yeah,
he is expected to miss a game at some point in April for the Padres. But as of now, feeling good, healthy. He's been rehabbing all offseason. The expectation is for him to be playing, but he'll listen to his body.
and that was the thing we talked about at the end of this last year, is that if Manny Machado misses any time next season, then we'll go back to him not shutting it down in September to get the surgery as a very, very bad decision. If he misses a couple games, I can live with it. But when you start reaching the month phase, and that's when you start really like, okay, what the hell here? But I don't like hearing from Manny today and reading from Kevin today. Highly doubt, just knowing Manny Machado, highly doubt he misses any time other than for the birth of his child.
I agree with you. I think he plays. The only question is, does he perform? But then again, a year ago in April, he didn't perform and he was quote unquote healthy. So we'll see if he does.
And if he's
2024.
and if he's the DH for the first month, that's fine. His bat to me is more important than his glove at this point because you have Ha-Seong Kim over there. You can put pieces at third base and be fine. You might not get the same level of defense from those guys, but you are going to get pretty close if you have Ha-Seong Kim as your third baseman for the first month of this season. So to me, the bat is the most important thing. And if he's got a DH for a month or whatever, I'm fine with that.
I agree with you. All right, we have Earth, Wind, and Fire tickets to give away. We'll do that coming up between now and 5 p.m. But right now, let's get to this.
Is tonight a must-win game for the Aztecs?
Oh, the must-win question.
Heard that one before.
Yeah, we're sticking with our 3-1 out of the last 4 games here.
Okay,
and you're at home. They're undefeated at home. Every home game is crucial because let's face it, they haven't been that great on the road this year, especially just in the Mountain West in general. And with that, you got to take care of home court, and tonight is no different.
I think to win the regular season title, it's a must-win. I think to get to the NCAA tournament, it is not, as we sit here today, a must-win. But you're pushing that must-win category, like you just said. I mean, the Aztecs are the only undefeated team at home in the Mountain West this year, out of conference or in conference. Can they keep that streak intact here tonight? If you're going to win a regular season title, you'll need to win here tonight. It is not easy. You're taking on one of the better teams in the league, also with postseason aspirations, one of the top point guards in America in Isaiah Stevens. But yeah, you're pushing close to must-win status tonight for San Diego State against Colorado State. Next question.
What would Jackson Merrill's numbers be if he got 500 plate appearances in the big leagues next year?
So 2024.
Okay. 500.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to me, if you're getting 500 plate appearances, that means you're doing something right.
About 120 games.
Because a team is not going to give a 20-year-old that many plate appearances if he's hitting like 190.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I would say like a 240, 250 guy with a little over 700. I mean, around a 700 OPS, preferably in the 740 range. I mean, 740 would be really good for him. But I would go with those. I would go with those two numbers there as being if he's getting 500 plate appearances.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he'd need to maintain a 700 OPS to get that many appearances or plate appearances in the big leagues this upcoming year. Yeah, I mean, I think if you could hit 240 and run into 15 balls, and drive in, I don't know, 60. in 100 games.
55.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, that's probably as good. What are the alternatives? I mean, Jerks and Profar, is Profar better than that? Not in my opinion. Is Marcy better than that? We don't know.
If you told me right now you're the left fielder for the San Diego Padres this year, 500 plate appearances, we just said 248, 16 home runs, 52 RBIs, 725 OPS. For me, I'd much rather have that person be Jackson Merrill than Jerks and Profar.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. And again, would you take it for a rookie year for a 20-year-old? Yeah. Again, it's not probably the way you get to the World Series, but it's not preventing you.
No.
Hopefully from getting there either.
He wouldn't be a reason why they would lose. There wouldn't be a reason why they would lose.
I agree with that. All right, next question.
Would you like to see the NCAA tournament expanded?
Did you see this report, Ross Dellinger, today saying it's an inevitability?
Why?
That the NCAA, because of
money.
access and money and the Power Four and getting more schools in. Brett Yormark, the commissioner of the Big 12, saying that he likes the tournament, but he doesn't know if the best teams are getting in. I'm like, what do you say? What you want? You want more Big 12 teams? You want teams that are 16-16 going to the NCAA tournament?
I get it. These big brands, leagues, money is, I mean, it's like stupid money nowadays. I get it. But at some point, you got to keep the integrity of your sport intact. And if you're letting in teams like John, you just said there, 16-16 teams that finished third in their conference,
not even third, more like 13th. I mean,
what are we doing
in the Big 12? Yeah, I mean, you could have a team. If you go from 68 to 96, you're letting all the power teams in. Yeah, that's what you're doing. If you're going from 68 to 96,
it's perfect.
The one thing that will have people revolt, in my opinion, is if you get rid of automatic bids for non-power leagues.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden you're not automatically in for winning the Ivy or the Missouri Valley or the Mountain West, that is going to be very problematic. I don't think they would do that because people would literally lose their minds. But is it going from 68 to 72 or 76 or dare I say even 96 because of money? It's probably going to increase in terms of total teams into the tournament at some point in the future. Next question.
What's the next move you want to see AJ Preller make?
A trade for an outfielder.
Okay.
Trade for an outfielder. AJ Preller mentioned it today that they are still hot in the trade market. They've discussed a lot of different trade scenarios. It felt like just trying to read between the lines that they're not done yet. I at this point, I'd be shocked and very surprised if there's not at least one more move, most likely via trade.
I agree. They have 37 players on their 40-man roster.
Yeah.
Most teams are 39, not 40. So I think that there's an addition or two to be had between now and let's say March 20th. So it doesn't have to be tomorrow.
No.
It doesn't have to be for the first Cactus League game, February 22nd.
Right.
Someone had reported, I saw today, that they expect the free agent market to pick up on Wednesday because that's when you could move guys to the 60-day IL and it frees up spots on 40-mans, which could lead to signing. So maybe we see something in the days ahead. But you're saying maybe trade as opposed to free agency from an acquisition perspective.
Because you can expand your reach with a trade. You can go all over baseball. Free agency, the pool that you have to deal with isn't like the greatest. Tommy Pham's the name that is probably talked about the most inside the organization as far as free agency goes. But I mean, Tommy Pham has a number. He has a price. And the Padres have a price as well. So for me, it would be better for them to make a trade for a player for the outfield than signing a player to the outfield because they can find a guy throughout baseball that isn't going to probably cost you close to $10 million.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's interesting to me. There's been so much obsession and fascination and interest in this outfield. And now over the last couple of days or even a week, there hasn't been as much discussion about their rotation. Where there's only three guaranteed locks. It's like, well, they only have two outfielders. They only have three outfielders. Well, they only have three starting pitchers. Yes, they have options, just like they have options in their outfield, the Marcys and the Merrills. But, I mean, when it comes to starting pitching, what about a trade for a starting pitcher or an acquisition of a free agent like,
I would like that.
Michael Lorenzen? Like, it feels to me that the rotation is just as important, if not more important, than addressing the outfield right now.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. I do also think that this bullpen is going to be a big component to this year. And by big component, I mean like a lot of openers, guys making starts, maybe only going 3-4 innings, like a Waldron or Avila, or even like a guy like Luis Patino, or they might, I don't know what they're going to do as far as the back end of their rotation, but if you get the type of seasons like we hope to see from Darvish, Musgrove, and King, then really the 4 or 5 starters aren't like the end all be all to you making it into the postseason. How many teams in the last 5 years have won the World Series and you're like, man, those 4 or 5 starters, oh, those guys were great.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the top end of your rotation, and they believe they have 3 legit guys at the front, and they're banking on and hoping that you get all-star seasons, maybe from all 3 of them, at least one of them, but all 3 of them need to perform. And if all 3 of them perform like they hope they can perform, then I think that the back end of your rotation doesn't become this major black hole. Now, it will be a black hole and it will be a problem if, say, Michael King doesn't perform, or you get an injury from Musgrove, Darvish, or King, or if all 3 of them don't perform, then you got major problems.
I just add up Lugo, Waka, Snell.
Uh-huh.
That's a lot of innings and a lot of good innings.
But the pitching wasn't. But that's the thing, though. The pitching last year, John, starting pitching,
yeah,
really wasn't a problem. The middle relief for them was bad. Back end was good with Hader. Oh, our
signs fell down.
Nice, great. The pitching, John, the starting pitching, was that a problem for this team last year?
No, and they won 80 games.
So what happens? The offense.
What happens if the starting pitching isn't as good?
Well,
win more games.
You better hope the offense, does better.
Looks like the Rockies in like
our
99.
Our set looks like the Rockies right now.
All right, Earth, Wind, and Fire tickets. We have those for you
disaster.
on the other side. Do not go anywhere. We'll get you ready for San Diego State and Colorado State at 6 p.m. Plus, we're giving away Chicago and Earth, Wind, and Fire tickets next. All right, stay with us on the other side. We'll get you ready for San Diego State and Colorado State. Plus, give away a pair of tickets to see Chicago and Earth, Wind, and Fire next. Island Credit Union Amphitheater, August 31st, 877-767-4760. Caller 7, they are yours. 2 free tickets. Chicago, Earth, Wind, and Fire. August 31st, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater, 877-767-4760. Real quick, this has happened a lot. So Nick Hardwick is now coaching for Jim Harbaugh. Is he the assistant offensive line coach for the Chargers?
I
Correct.
think so.
So he goes from Hardwick, Schaefer, and friends
Wow.
to then like coaching under Jim Harbaugh.
Uh-huh.
Here I am with you.
Loyal to the soil, baby.
So
Actually, not
congrats
really.
to Nick on his new opportunity with the Chargers.
Money
Me,
talks.
me and you will just keep talking San Diego sports here.
Do you feel like
So when do me
soon-
and Jim become rich and famous then?
right? Like, do you
that's a
feel
good
like
point.
at one point in time,
Yeah, this
me or Brent are gonna go on to bigger and better things, and one day
this,
they'll be like,
this
wow.
is like how the NFL likes to talk about the Bill Walsh coaching tree all the time.
Right.
It's the John Schaefer.
Schaefer.
I used to work
look at all
with
these
tree.
people I've worked with. Like every broadcaster has made it to the major leagues or
Will
like the NFL.
Fleming.
Yeah, Jason Benetti, Kevin Brown, John Sadak with the there's like a zillion.
Nick Hardwick,
and now I'm still hanging out with you,
Jim Russell,
me and Brent. Now
and Brent
are
Sperry.
one of you two going to make it? I can see Brent making it. Yeah,
Thanks. It's a giant TBD on that one. Giant TBD
on what?
On if we're gonna make it or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
no, I'm with you.
But,
by the way, shout out Dylan.
Shout out to Dylan,
who
yes.
just swung by and said he listens to us all the time.
Don't know if he's listening, but yeah.
Yeah, he's going inside Viejas Arena. We're outside right now. San Diego State and Colorado State coming up at 6:05 tonight. Ted Leitner on the call. I will admit it is getting cooler right now. The sun has gone down.
See? Told you.
It's still probably like 60 degrees. I mean, it's spectacular.
It's fine if it was 60, but this like wind coming in my
3 mile an
face,
hour wind is killing us.
It's death. No, it's fine. It's whatever. I'm just a giant softie.
Now, you get to get out of here an hour early because we have the countdown tip-off. Do you have plans? This is Valentine's Day Eve. Aaron said, don't worry about it. We're getting married. The Niners lost the Super Bowl. But do you have plans for the next 24 hours or not? Tonight, tomorrow,
just, throw that in there.
The Niners losing the Super Bowl.
Thanks a lot. I feel like over time goes, you're going to rib me more and more about that game.
I don't plan. I honestly don't want to do that. I really don't. My take, I'm putting a bow on it for today.
Okay, do it. I haven't. Okay, do it.
Here's my bow on Super Bowl 58.
Okay.
This is honestly my takeaway. Forget about the injury.
Yeah.
Forget about the third down plays. Forget about McCaffrey's fumble. Forget about it all.
Okay.
The decision to take the football to start overtime will go down as an epically awful decision. I'm telling you, that's how it will be remembered. 30 years from now, they'll look back on that and say, I cannot believe they decided to take the football. That, to me, will be the biggest takeaway from that game.
Do you? Okay, what if it was reversed? What if they elected to
take the ball second?
Take the ball second.
Mm-hmm. Chiefs score a touchdown.
Chiefs score a touchdown.
They go up 7. Now you got 4th and goal from the 4 the other way for the Niners.
Or not. Or they don't have a 4th and goal. Or the Niners just don't even get to that position. Then aren't you saying, why did you give the ball to Mahomes?
No, because but the same could be true. What if the Chiefs went 3 and out with the ball first? No, you're not saying why'd you give the ball to Mahomes, because no matter what they do, you're not putting it in his hands to win or lose the game. Like, it's out of his hands. You can score a touchdown, be down 1, and go for 2. You can win the game without him touching the ball again. That's the difference. Why would he be given the ball with a chance to win it, regardless of what you do? That's what they did. That, to me, is the egregious part of it. It might not be on Kyle Shanahan. It might be on their analytics. Someone's decision to make that decision is poorly sought out when you're facing Patrick Mahomes. Maybe it's different if you're facing, name a quarterback in the NFL that isn't Patrick Mahomes, the other 30.
I think you're right, but I also think that the analytics were right as well. I just think that it's a different animal when it's Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
And going forward, every single team
is taking the ball second.
Is going to take the ball second in the postseason if they're facing Patrick Mahomes.
Right. This whole third possession idea is cute in theory until you realize nobody's playing for a third possession. They're trying to end the game. So I'll give you another example. It's now, let's say, it's 22-19. They kick a field goal. And now the Chiefs have a 4th and 2 from the Niners 29. They could kick a field goal to tie the game, a 46-yard field goal to tie the game.
I think they're going for it.
They're going for it. Exactly. They're trying to win the game. They're keeping the ball in the hands of Mahomes.
Yeah.
They're not playing to tie it and give it back to San Francisco.
And another thing about that game, there was like 10:50 left.
Okay.
Niners are driving. They're down 13-10.
Okay.
They go for it on 4th and 3.
Yeah.
And that, to me, was the moves you have to make.
Completely agree.
To beat Patrick Mahomes.
They did it against Detroit as well, didn't they? Earlier in that game, there was a 4th down. They went for it on trailing.
Well, I mean, they were.
Or even tied?
There, why not go for a 4th down in overtime? You know what I mean? That's another good point. So, yeah, if you're going for it there,
that's a great point.
Why not go for it in overtime, knowing essentially you have to score a touchdown?
Run the same play you ran on 3rd down, everyone's open. Or run it again and block Chris Jones, and you might win the game.
Or run the ball first and know that you have 2 downs to get 3 yards.
Another good point.
John,
it's not like the running back
going
to 30
touchdowns. Why did you have to bring this up? I'm so.
I know. My bad. All right, we're back tomorrow for Valentine's Day. Stick around. Countdown to tip off the next. San Diego State, Colorado State, myself, and Ben Fletcher for our crew. That's Brent. And Jim. I'm John. Keep it here. Countdown to tip off is next. Aztec basketball at 6 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760.